afternoon. My name is Cynthia Blandford. I'm the Honorary Consul General for the Republic of Liberia in Georgia, and also President and Chair of the Board for University Consortium for Liberia, and President of Global Strategies for Good. I'm happy to endorse To Be Caribbean, and I welcome you to participate in this wonderful media adventure. Thank you.
African and Caribbean cultures have always had some natural synergies, and today's guest is testimony to that. In addition to holding the prestigious title of Honorary Consul General to the Republic of Liberia in Georgia, she's also the President and CEO of Global Strategies for Good, LLC, President and Chair of the University Consortium to Liberia, and one of the founders of the Organization for African and Caribbean Consular Corps in Georgia. Welcome to the Ambassador 5 series, where we showcase a personality who's actively promoting culture throughout the world. My name is Marissa, and today we have the pleasure of speaking to Miss Cynthia Blandford. Welcome, Miss Blandford.
Thank you so much for having me. Well, there's no doubt about the historical ties between the Caribbean, Africa, and the United States of America, because clearly looking at the slave trade example. But there's more to it, and I think it's our responsibility. The Latin American countries convene their leadership to talk about trade, travel, and tourism. The Asian countries do the same, the European countries. But the African and Caribbean countries have not always been on the same page in some ways. We're not coordinating our efforts, but we have much to offer. So a few years ago, under my leadership and in collaboration with the Honorary Consul, or the Consul General for Haiti, as well as the Ambassador for Nigeria, Ambassador Jeffrey Tenalabi, and Gandhi Thomas of Haiti, who is now the Dean of the Georgia Consular Corps, we brainstormed about how we could make an impact between the Caribbean countries and the African countries. There are 14 African and Caribbean consulates in the state of Georgia. There are over 70 countries represented in the state of Georgia, but of those 70 plus consulates, honorary consuls, and trade missions, 14 are African and Caribbean. So we've developed a master plan, a business plan that speaks to the issue of how do we increase trade between the islands, the United States of America, and Africa. There's some very unique opportunities, particularly since Liberia has oil. Many of the island countries are in need of those things. We're drilling offshore, but we have Chevron there, Mobil Oil is there, Anadarko is there. So how do we then turn those assets into something that can benefit our sister island countries? In addition to that, we also have airlines that also have relationships with many of our countries. And so right now we are talking to some of the chief airlines, Delta Airlines being one, who's been a great partner to Liberia. Even though we've taken a little bit of a back step on direct flights, I met the president a few weeks ago, Ed Bastian, and he assured me that Delta's in it for the long term. And that's very encouraging to me. So while we're on our way to Liberia, do we stop off in Haiti? Do we stop off in, Jamaica? Do we stop off in Barbados? Those are the kinds of things I think that the consulates of Haiti, Jamaica, Liberia, and other countries that we're working with, these are the things that we have to begin to brainstorm on and come up with an action plan that makes sense. We probably have relatives in each of these countries that we don't even know about. So I think it's going to be culturally important, economically important. The tourism is amazing for us to share and to have our family reunions in your countries. You come to our countries. And I think the time is here. The time is now. I think the other important point I want to make is when you go to big giants like the Walmarts of the world, like Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, like the Georgia Ports Authority and other big businesses, we have to come with a collective voice. Coming one by one doesn't always get the story told, nor do we get the outcomes that we want. But when you're sitting with the governor, when you're sitting with the Senate or the House of Representatives, when you're sitting with the Chambers of Commerce and you speak as one voice of 14 different countries, we get our due respect. And these institutions are accustomed to block voting or block, comments or block proposals. And we have to be smart enough to just do it. So we're very happy that under the leadership of Mr. Roy Hadley of Thompson and Hines, he has put together for us an LLC platform. We will be working with the African and Caribbean consulates to vote on this so that we have a platform to take forward for raising money, to getting before the appropriate parties, to increase trade and economic development. And we're very excited because I think once we get ourselves organized, it's really that organization, that voice, that one voice that will be heard, and people will begin to know that Georgia, with the consulates that are here, African and Caribbean, that we are serious about the work that we do for our countries. And so at the age of 18, I left Ithaca to Liberia. And I stayed there for 1 whole year and was very fortunate to have taught at the university. Actually, it was an elementary school. It was an elementary school in Yakapanimba County, but I attended the University of Liberia for 2 semesters.
Oh, wow.
And it was a life-changing experience. So fast forward, almost 40 years ago, I'm celebrating great milestones. I still have made major connections that have altered my entire life. And the footsteps that I've taken to get me to the diplomatic corps started over 40 years ago.
Right.
I think for me it's about the future. It's about the young people. It's so critically important, and I know that some of my fellow diplomats say, you know, in the consulate office we do consular services, visa services, taking care of people who have been deported, those folks who have some other kinds of issues. But for me, that's important. But as consulates in these various countries, we should also be looking at how we can make a greater impact for young people. If we look at the emerging economies of the world today, many of them are third world countries that are just beginning to be known in this world economy. How do we bring young people along with us? For example, I've been in this post since 2009. I'm very grateful and thankful to the government for this opportunity. And many of my consul generals and honorary consuls are the same way. But we offer internships. So how do we then maximize that? I've had more than 15, almost 20 interns in my office since 2009. I'm hoping that some of these young people will become future diplomats. How do we train these young people to know that there are options and opportunities? And really and truly, our offices really should be training grounds for young people to sit inside of a diplomatic office, understand how the United Nations works, understands diplomacy, understands issues of conflict resolution and customer service at a completely different level with heads of states and ambassadors and ministers of government. And unless and until we give young people a chance, because as they're writing their resumes, they'll say, I had an experience in the Liberian consulate in Georgia. I learned how to issue travel visas. I learned how to meet with ambassadors. I learned through the University Consortium for Liberia, which is our nonprofit. We have 22 colleges and universities that we're working with. We give scholarships to those universities for young people who want access to do service learning, study abroad, student exchange. That's what it's all about. It's really beginning to change the dynamic of the vision that young people have about the world. And if it doesn't start in our offices where we have access to heads of state, ministers of government, and ambassadors, then shame on us.
Right.
We've got to do a better job. And so I'm very happy in this office. Not only do we have consular services, but we also have our nonprofit, the University Consortium for Liberia. We have young people who are working with us to help do special event planning. We're even bringing in celebrities who are of Liberian descent to be a part of this, to encourage young people to be a part of this new dynamic, this new future for young Africans in America. Well, I think you have to be courageous. This is typically a man's world. I'm the only African American female to ever have been appointed as an Honorary Consul General for the Republic of Liberia. In the state of Georgia, I'm the only African American female out of 70 Honorary Consuls, Consuls Generals, and trade offices in the state of Georgia. And I'm sure throughout the country there are going to be missing pieces in terms of where are young people of color in this conversation, young women and girls. If I can do it, I came from a very meager, middle class, modest family background. Who would have thought that a young country girl out of Ithaca, New York, could rise to the ranks of an Honorary Consul General representing a head of state here in Georgia. So for me, it's about how do we encourage young women and girls to have a chance. Many of the internships I offer here are for young women who are college grads or even high school students who have an interest. And so, for example, tonight we're going to Kennesaw State University. I bring these young people with me. I offer them an opportunity to meet presidents of colleges and universities. And so that access gives them a comfort level, a sense of confidence that if she can do it, I can do it too.
Right.
So we have to build young people's confidence, particularly young women and girls who say, I can't do that, I can't be that. Well, if I can be that and do that, so can that little girl from Atlanta, Georgia, or from Alabama, or from Mississippi. If you want that dream's desire to come true, you just have to dream big, hope big. And working in my office as an Honorary Consul General and President and CEO of Global Strategies for Good, and also Chair of the Board and President for the University Consortium for Liberia, my office is open for any young person who wants this experience.
Right.
And it's really about having the doors open for young people, and I'm ready to do it.
Indeed.
Papa kena kamelo mwako muma kema adenuna mwako muma kema adenuna na mwanu wede bono tu sande muwe na mwanu wede bono tu sande muwe una memuwe ke bono memuwe una memuwe ke bono memuwe je bono je bono make you sana.